Völker. So today we'll be talking about the Cambodian genocide conducted by the Khmer Rouge, and we once again have been handed in a draft resolution by the delegate of France. So we'll be setting half an hour lobbying time to discuss and possibly co-submit to the draft resolution of France. So we kindly ask you to be back in half an hour, okay? Would that be fine? Okay, good. So, guys, you can turn up some music if you want. Macht mal Mucke an. David. So you can also leave the room and stuff if you want to. Go to the toilet, get yourself some coffee, blah, blah, blah. Okay, was machen wir denn? topic of the Cambodian genocide. Will the main submitter, the French delegation of this resolution, please take the floor to read the operative clauses and hold a little speech regarding this resolution?
Point of
Thanks. Yes.
So maybe make it a bit bigger.
Oh, can we turn the light off?
That would be great.
Admin, can you turn off the light?
Thank you. Oh, that's great.
No.
Könnt ihr eine Seite anmachen mit Licht?
Nee.
Ja, Alter, uns kackt hier die ganze Kamera.
Wir sind
Ich habe keine Rechte mehr.
Wir sind jetzt auch nicht so schön, dass wir sehen.
Nee.
Können wir die andere Seite anmachen?
Ich mache nur aufmerksam.
Who would like to co-submit this
Yeah,
resolution?
did anyone? Okay.
I haven't read it, it's probably good. So.
Does anyone want to co-submit to this resolution? Okay, GDR. Someone else? United States? Okay, that would be enough, I guess. Okay, you can now commence with your speech and read the operative clauses. Thanks.
Thank you. The Security Council of the United Nations condemns the genocide against the Kampuchean people as a crime against humanity. Decrees that in the meantime a variety of sanctions against the KR regime be adopted, ranging from an export ban on conventional and small arms, crude and refined petroleum, rubber, concrete and steel. Mandates that in the interest of regional and international peace and stability, a peacekeeping mission to Democratic Kampuchea, UNKPEF, be established with the aim of preventing further humanitarian atrocities from being committed. Decides that following the successful deployment of UNKPEF, a United Nations Interim Authority for Kampuchea, UNHSC, be implemented with civilian and military components and under the direct responsibility of the Secretary-General, relieving the central government of its authority in fields relating to matters of A. Human rights and humanitarian aid, B. A functioning civil administration and the maintenance of law and order, C. Repatriation of Kampuchean refugees and displaced persons, D. Military arrangements, E. Rebuilding vital Kampuchean infrastructure, F. Representing on an international level the sovereign interests of Kampuchea and its citizens, G. Preparing the way for a free and democratic election of a Kampuchean legislature to be held at a point later to be determined. Honorable chairs, distinguished fellow delegates, the French Republic is firmly committed to establishing a peaceful and lasting solution to the problem arising in so-called democratic Kampuchea. The brutal, violent communist regime that has implemented itself after the civil war is ruthlessly murdering its own population in pursuit of some sort of agrarian utopia. Honorable assembled, we sit here in this chamber of justice and peace to discuss the international affairs. Let us now come together and ensure that the Kampuchean population is no longer further maltreated and killed and tortured by its own government. The French Republic is of the opinion that this is a situation that is crystal clear and needs a decisive United Nations involvement in order for the situation to turn out favorably for Kampuchea and its citizens and the whole region in general. Thank you very much. We're open to points of information.
Are there any such in the House? USA, followed by Japan.
The delegation of the USA is fully supporting the argument of France and... Yes.
Thank you.
Japan.
The delegate of Japan agrees to the delegate of the United States. Japan will also follow the lead that France has laid, even though the delegate of Japan has a question about the point B about the functioning civil administration. Who would set that functioning civil administration in place?
That would be the direct responsibility of the United Nations Interim Authority. Excusez-moi. As the delegate of Japan would be pleased to read in that part of the main clause, the delegation of France foresees in this resolution a civilian component of the interim authority, which would be well placed to set up a civil administration that is free from prejudice, ideology, and human rights abuses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegation of France yields the floor back to the chair.
Nous en faisons.
We are now in open debate on this resolution as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor or against this resolution as a whole? Please raise your placards high now. Japan, you have been recognized.
Okay. The delegate of Japan thinks that the resolution proposed by France is a very good option to improve the situation in Cambodia so that no more people will be harmed.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
I yield the floor.
Thank you, Delegate. Does anyone else wish to speak either in favor or against this resolution as a whole? Raise your placards high now. Sweden, you have been recognized.
Sweden would like to speak in favor of this resolution because Sweden is convinced that this problem can be only solved by supporting this country and its citizens and all the people which are under this horrible and dictator or this horrible organization. Sweden is convinced that we need to do something to solve this problem and to help them because we shouldn't let them treat their citizens as they do now.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
No.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Delegate. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this resolution as a whole? Raise your placards high now. Seeing as there is no delegate wishing to speak either in favor or against this resolution as a whole, we will now be moving into debating on the clauses themselves one by one. We'll be discussing the first clause, which reads, condemns the genocides against Kampuchean people as a crime against humanity, decrees that in the meantime a variety of sanctions against the Khmer regime be adopted, ranging from an export ban on conventional and small arms, crude and refined petroleum, rubber, concrete and steel. The chair will now set 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against on this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this clause as a whole? Raise your placards high now. Soviet Union, you have been recognized, and then we'll see.
The delegate of the Soviet Union agrees to that point. Again, the USA condemned the condemned the border law and attacked us in Cambodia. This is not acceptable. We want to have a sanction against that. They attacked our troops in a different country again after what they did in Vietnam. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Are you open to any kinds of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. The chair would remind all delegates to speak of Cambodia as Kampuchea, because nowadays Cambodia is actually known as Cambodia, but back then the regime of Pol Pot renamed Cambodia to Kampuchea. So and back in the 1970s, Cambodia was thought and thought of as Kampuchea. So when you refer to Cambodia, please refer to Kampuchea. Thank you, delegates. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this clause as a whole? Raise your placards high now. Before there were 3 guys wishing to speak. You don't want to speak, guys? Okay, do I hear any seconds? Are there any delegates wishing to speak against this clause as a whole? Thank you. China, you have been recognized.
we as a delegation of China, although we recognize the genocide against the Cambodian people made by the Khmer Rouge regime, we do think that this genocide was quite good because it is going for the greater good, which is for creating an agrarian society which will benefit the needs of the Cambodian people.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any at all.
Are there any such in the House? France, followed by the Soviet Union.
How can the delegate of the People's Republic of China state that the genocide was for the greater good when horrible human suffering and atrocities are being committed as we speak in democratic Kampuchea? Furthermore, does the delegate of the People's Republic of China not realize that the products that are being sanctioned, the exports to Kampuchea, are relevant only to the conduction of warfare and oppression against the Kampuchean people and of no direct use to the civilian population?
The delegate of China is quite aware of that fact.
Very well, thank you.
Soviet Union?
The delegate wants to know until what?
Delegate.
I said that. Until what point is this genocide good? Where's the breaking point?
At the moment, the delegation of China cannot give any estimations because, yep.
Thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that we yield the floor back to the chair. Thank you, Delegate. Is there anyone else wishing to speak against this clause as a whole? Raise your placards high now. Now is also the time to...
Second.
Are there any objections? Okay, I guess no. Okay, we will now directly be moving into voting procedures on this clause as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak, wishing to vote in favor of this clause, raise your placards high now. Anyone wishing to vote against, raise your placards high now. You want to use your veto right? Okay, now if you don't want to, you don't have to. But now you also have to come up here and give a speech while you used to read the right. Okay, so with 10 people, with 10 delegates voting in favor of this clause and 1 against, this clause passes. Clapping is in order, guys. Woo.
China will veto everything except that stupid thing. Weil man schlecht dagegen sein kann.
Nein, mit Milch und Zucker.
Weil ja offiziell alle für Menschenrechte sind. Außerdem, nur wenn der Sicherheitsrat
Thank you, Admin.
irgendwelche Sanktionen umsetzen muss, heißt ja nicht, dass sie die tatsächlich umsetzen muss.
2 mehr Kaffee und mir noch Kekse. Dankeschön. 6 Kaffee.
This second clause, the chair would like to remind the delegates to write some gossip for the gossip box, because the best results will be read out at the ending ceremony. So, yeah, write some funny stuff, and you'll have the option to be read out. Soviet Union.
Delegate who's most likely to today in this
We
council.
haven't decided like completely on the superlatives yet. Like there always is a best delegate, like best tie, best couple, stuff like that. But we'll have to see. Like we're all going at the end. We're all going to vote on like these superlatives. But maybe there's also most likely going to be rock star or something like that.
What?
A rock star.
Yeah, okay. So, as we are already now at the second of three clauses on this whole resolution, we'd like to encourage all delegates to write amendments, as otherwise we will have debated the whole resolution in like half an hour, and then the chairs will have to come up with something to discuss about as well. Jetzt kommt sie mit der Gossip-Box, ne? Jetzt wieder so. Woo!
Ich will auch einen Kaffee. Mit Milch, ohne Zucker.
Was, Maxel?
Was ist Moritz?
Kaffee mit Milch und 10 Stücken Zucker.
Thank you, Delegate. Zucker mit Kaffee. Okay, so once again, we'd like to encourage you guys to write amendments, as otherwise we will have nothing to talk about in the afternoon. So, yeah, we are now in open debate on this clause as a whole. What? Yeah, maybe, but we won't. Yeah, like we have one crisis prepared. Yeah, maybe. But we'd like to encourage you guys to still write amendments, as this is a really important topic. But now we are in an open debate on this clause as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak either in favor or against this clause can raise the placards high now. France, you have been recognized. So guys, please hand in amendments. We just need something to talk about.
The delegation of France views this point as an essential point in forming a plan that transforms Kampuchea from a destabilizing dictatorship that evokes great suffering from its people into a modern and democratic state. The French Republic considers this clause to be a very important institutional aspect of this resolution, as it mandates the deployment of international observers and peacekeeping troops. This would enable the United Nations to have direct oversight over the situations in Kampuchea, find out more about the horrible deeds committed by the government there, and also enable a military stabilization of the country that paves the way for further development and a peaceful transition of power. Thank you very much. We're open to points of information.
Are there any such in the house? Japan?
How would the delegate of France deal with any upcoming revolutions against the aid program sent?
The delegate of Japan is aware of the fact, surely, that the peacekeeping troops are allowed to return fire if threatened in their safety and the carrying out of their mission. Therefore, the peacekeeping troops are armed and ready to protect the mission of the United States and the Kampuchean people from revolutionary or reactionary forces of the Khmer Rouge.
Right to reply?
Wanted.
The delegate of Japan assured that the delegate of France meant the United Nations, not the United States.
If the delegate of France has so stated, then we do apologize.
Yeah.
That is what we meant, yes.
Right to reply?
Granted.
Doesn't the delegate of France think that there's a better way to prevent upcomings of revolutions?
The delegate of France considers this only to be the first point in a transition of power and a democratic restructuring of the Kampuchean state organizations. We feel that this point alone cannot ensure a democratic transition of power. Yet we feel that this is essential to stabilize the military situation and ensure the safety of UN aid workers and aid programs in Kampuchea. We feel that the point after that serves to address more directly the ways in which United Nations authority can actually be assumed to the benefit of the Kampuchean people.
Ready to reply?
Go on to it.
Another thing that concerns the delegate of Japan is that the delegate of France mentioned that the UN or the people that sent there should have to furthermore view and see how the situation is with the people. How long would that take?
The delegate of France is not presently absolutely sure how long the situation will take to stabilize, how long the collection of information will take, or the extent to which the Khmer Rouge have perpetrated crimes within the area of democratic Kampuchea. However, we are confident that within a space of 4 to 5 months, the interim authority could be set up, the military situation stabilized, Khmer Rouge rebels disarmed and disbanded, and the process of evolving Kampuchea into a truly democratic state can be started.
Thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegation of France yields the floor back to the chair.
So yielded.
Yeah.
During the time of the debating, has the genocide already happened, or is it still happening?
Yes, it is still happening.
It is still happening, like
Okay.
more.
So we're in the middle of it?
Yeah, we're completely in the middle of it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like more reports coming out that like people are dying, overworking, being tortured to death, stuff like that. Yeah. So shout out to the chairs of GF3 who are currently watching us on the stream, I believe. Woo! Everyone wave. We love you guys. Okay, someone got dumped tonight. We don't know who. Who? Okay. Nevertheless, we are back in open debate on this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak either in favor or against this clause as a whole? We would kindly ask you to hand in amendments so we have something to talk about, guys. Where?
Right in the clause on any.
Besides the following.
The third clause, sorry. Okay. Is there really no one wishing to speak either in favor or against this clause as a whole? Do I have a motion to move into voting procedures? Okay, we will now be commencing with voting procedures on this clause as a whole. Anyone, okay, we have no admin here. Okay, anyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause, raise your placards high now. And you're getting your coffee, guys. Anyone wishing to vote against, raise your placards high now. Okay, so with 11 delegates voting in favor and 1 against, this 10 against, okay, 10 in favor, 1 against. This clause passes. Clapping is in order. Yeah? Yes.
Denied.
Am I actually allowed to deny that? If I wanted, like, if Dan wanted to go to the toilet? Okay, if I have to reason, yes. Ja, ihr sollt mal ganz leise sein da hinten, Jungs.
4.
Übrigens, es wurden Beschwerden eingereicht, dass ihr zu laut seid da hinten, also seid mal ein bisschen leiser.
Wo sind die zu laut?
Ihr da hinten.
Wann so laut?
Keine Ahnung, wurde mir gestern irgendwie so gesagt. Ich geb gleich Schnauze, Mann. Ja, jetzt sagt er nichts mehr, ne?
Ja, da haben wir die Sprache verschlagen.
You wanna go to the bathroom?
Okay.
Wir sind wieder, eigentlich sind wir noch mit in der Konferenz, aber... Okay, so, as this is the last clause of this resolution, the chair is setting 5 minutes reading time on this clause as a whole. Now is the time to read through this whole clause, and to you have the possibility to write amendments and to handle them later. So yeah, we have something to talk about now.
In a single thing, not the whole clause.
Okay. So yeah, okay, we can vote that if you want. So the delegation of Japan has suggested that we discuss every subclause by itself. So like we discuss A, B, and C all separately. Would that be in order, guys? Is it fine for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Thank you.
Do something justice.
Ja, schön.
Mir? Warum? Weil Baum. Bestes Argument. Oh, dann komm da. Ja, bitte. Das musst du vorne bringen und dann vote ich für dich. Ja.
Because of tree.
Okay, may the House come to order. The chair is still setting 1 minute reading time for this first clause as a whole. Now you have the possibility to prepare speeches, write possible amendments, and yeah, just read through the whole first clause. Thanks.
Warum schreibst du so viel? Was ist das?
Du kannst bitte wegschmeißen. Ja. Jetzt ist aber Müll einfach.
Zuckerwürfel? Ich will auch. Kampuchea.
Die Nachricht war übrigens eben von mir, ne? Mit dem Dampf.
K-A-M-P-U-P-U-C-H-E-R.
Oh, stimmt. Das war das.
Kannst du mir auch Kaffee holen? Ey, ich bin der Chair, ich habe auch Rechte.
Zucker?
Na, ohne Zucker.
Normal Kaffee?
Schwarz.
Was mit unserem Kaffee?
Ja, ihr habt eh keine Rechte da hinten. Ich glaube, wir sollten mal GR3 besuchen gehen, ne? So, alle zusammen. Ein bisschen. Sollten die mal fragen, ob die ein bisschen Karaoke machen. Wir gehen einfach mal alle Karaoke zusammen. Nein, als Punishment, wenn jemand dann zu spät kommt, der muss dann rüberlaufen zu GR3. Die machen dann da, weil die Internet haben, geht die da vorne hin, weißt du? Und dann muss halt einer, der jetzt hier zu spät kommt, zu GR3 gehen und da dann Karaoke machen.
Genau. GR3, wenn ihr zuguckt, wir müssen zu euch kommen und singen.
Wenn da einer zu spät ist, dass sie hier hinkommen und singen.
Obwohl, das war auch lustig. Okay.
GR3, neuer Vorschlag.
Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr gerade zuguckt, aber wenn einer von euch zu spät kommt, muss der hier hinkommen und alle bleiben dann hingucken und die gucken dann im Livestream, wie er hier singt. Das wäre super.
Schreibt uns einen Zettel, wenn ihr das gehört habt.
Oh.
Du musst das exakt so aufschreiben, wie du es
For what?
möchtest.
For A or like?
Habt ihr gehört? Schreibt denen einen Zettel, wenn ihr es gehört habt.
You want to add like a whole new point, you know? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that it's fine. We'll be discussing it later. Okay, that's good.
Implementiert wird.
Wie unfair. Wie unfair.
Die wichtigsten Aufgaben der Regierung übernehmen.
Stell dir mal zu uns.
Eine freie Wahl praktisch stattfinden. Hier.
Alles klar.
Je vous remercie.
Hallo? Okay, Junge, schön. Jetzt kannst du es an GR3 bitte bringen?
Wem?
GR3. Cheers.
Was hast du hier geschrieben? 7:08? You going to get drunk tonight? No. I'm going to get drunk as well.
That was a joke. So wait till you're. Das sind meine Eltern. Das war ein Scherz. Rein.
Das will ich erstmal sehen.
Nein.
Doch. Komm her.
Ey, Zensur.
Ich brauche noch. Yeah, that would be in order. That's good.
Was ich brauche als Gimmick ist so ein Top-Secret-Stempel oder so, den ich auf Dokumente tun kann, damit sie nicht geöffnet werden.
Ja.
Soll ich das wegbringen?
Why not?
Weil mit so ein bisschen viel Wachstum nicht mehr müssen.
Why not? Check.
Okay, so I have. I'm a little bit suspicious of the delegate of Federal Republic of Germany, as I believe she's not actually going to the toilet, but she's going outside to smoke a cigarette. But things she'll have to share with us later. Yeah. Okay. The last joke she told was really bad, but I guess.
Ich wollte nur kurz erwähnen, dass vorher auch schon Moritz aus dem SC nach dem Streaming gefragt hat. Also vielleicht will er auch gleich noch was vorsingen.
Don't know. Is anybody watching us, guys? We don't know currently. I guess. Mach ich wieder so. Woo! Lass auch am Ende die Techniktypen nach vorne holen. Can you turn off the music, guys? That was really bad. So, the chair has come to the suspicion that the delegation of Federal Republic of Germany is not actually going to the toilet, but going outside to smoke a cigarette. No? Does she smell like cigarettes? Okay.
Bin ich einmal durchs ganze Gebäude fast, um Klopapier zu finden, deswegen. Dann gerade als ich reinkam,
Okay, no problem.
vom Lehrer Klopapier reingebracht.
Yeah.
Nee, da war auch keins. Da war gar nichts, deswegen.
Okay, guys, may the House please come to order. We will now commence back to go to debate. Delegates, please come to order. Okay. So we are now back in debate on this first subclause of the third clause of this resolution. The chair will set 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against this first subclause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this subclause? Raise your placard sign now. Japan, you have been recognized. Yeah.
The delegate of Japan thinks that it's very important to provide humanitarian and human rights aid to the people who are concerned right now through this genocide and who are being murdered every day. So the delegate of Japan thinks that that is a very important aspect that is not allowed to be forgotten.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
United States, you have recognized.
The United States, the delegation of the United States totally agrees with Japan. As our first aim is to secure human rights all around the world, no matter the conflict.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that the delegation of Japan use the floor back to the chair. Is there any other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this first subclause as a whole? Raise the placard sign now. Do I have any seconds? Okay, second. Okay, we are now in time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this first subclause as a whole? Okay, we will now commence with voting procedures on this first subclause as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak, to vote in favor of this subclause, raise your plackets high now. Anyone wishing to vote against? Okay, so with 10 votes in favor and 1 vote against, this clause passes. Clapping is in order, guys. Once again, we'd like to encourage you guys to hand in amendments. You don't have, if you don't want to like optimize any of the already given clauses, subclauses, you can already also hand in a new subclause as a whole if you want. Okay, so we are now back in closed debate on this second subclause. The chair will be setting 3 minutes in favor and 3 minutes against. Is any delegate wishing to speak in favor of this first subclause? Raise the plackets high now. Please. Japan, you have recognized. Followed by the Soviet Union.
The delegate of Japan is convinced that a functioning civil administration would be very beneficial to the situation that occurs right now in Kampuchea. And the delegate of Japan also thinks that that administration should be UN approved and should not be a possibility for other countries to get their political system inferior in some other place or to take power of that place.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
Yield the floor.
So we believe Soviet Union wanted to speak up next. No, we will now be entertaining a speech of the Soviet Union. Then you can entertain a motion if you want.
The delegate of the Soviet Union just wants to mention that this is an impair against the right and the sovereignty of every independent nation, which has been guaranteed by the UN Charter, and that the Soviet Union will lay a veto on this clause. No questions.
Thank you, Delegate. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this second clause? Raise your plackets high now. Fans, you have been recognized.
The delegation of the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics states that this clause violates the rights and sovereignty of an independent nation. Yet nevertheless, we must see that the government of this independent nation has repeatedly violated human rights and basic human decency in torturing and killing its own population. The delegate of the French Republic therefore asks the Assembly, why? Why should we not institute a proper government that respects human rights, a proper government that would enable Kampuchea to access the road to peace and stability that it so desperately needs in these times? Please, the delegate of the French Republic begs the assembled to reconsider their notion of sovereignty, to reconsider their view of the heinous regime that currently resides in Phnom Penh. We beg all assembled delegations here to support us and to support the Kampuchean people through this resolution. Thank you very much. We're open to points of information.
Are there any such in the House? UK, followed by Sweden.
The delegation of the UK completely agrees with the delegation of France, and we think that if a government is as corrupt as the government of Kampuchea, it should be replaced.
Thank you.
Sweden?
The delegation of Sweden completely agrees as well and supports this opinion, but there's one question open left, which is how France is planning on doing that, building up a new government which respects the human rights and tries to basically eliminate the not respecting human rights government?
May the House please come to order?
The government of the French Republic suggests that this question be left to UNIAC, the interim authority in Kampuchea. This would be a neutral organization under the supervision of the Secretary General that would be well placed to ensure the upholding of human rights and also educate the Kampuchean people about the democratic options they would enjoy under a new and freely elected legislature.
Granted.
But isn't a delegate of France aware of the consequences which could happen by doing that? Because this government is able to torture and kill people in their country. And does the delegate of France think, or doesn't the delegate of France think that this government will also start a war with this organization and try to destroy this organization if they're already killing the people?
The government of France is surely convinced that a regime that is so unscrupulous in treating its own population will surely not accept the implementation of democratic order. That is why we have successfully passed the clause deploying peacekeeping troops to Kampuchea in order to achieve a security and stability of the region. We also would like to draw attention to the fact that the current government has not been democratically elected, but rather violently seized power after winning the civil war. Therefore, we feel that the abused people of Kampuchea would be well placed to vote into power a democratic assembly that would realize their rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I open. Sorry.
Excuse me.
Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
So yielded.
Is there any other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this subclause as a whole, raise your placards high now? Do I have a motion to move into a previous question? Okay, so we are now in time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this clause as a whole, raise your placards high now? China, you have been recognized. China!
Woo! As a delegation of the Soviet Russia has previously announced, this clause also goes against the independence of certain countries, and it intermingles in the affairs of the Kampuchean country. And as such, we are against this clause.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Do.
Are there... Okay, we have Sweden. Anyone else? Okay, only Sweden then.
As delegate of Sweden, I would like to ask you if you're not aware of the consequences if you're not doing anything, not interrupting into this horrible organization which kills and tortures people in the country.
Yes, the delegation of China is fully aware of that, the implications.
Right?
Granted.
But if the delegate of China is aware of this problem, why is the delegate of China still against this clause then, or subclause?
Because we as a delegation of China do respect the independence of other countries in the world, and that would be breaking one of the foundational UN charters.
So, okay, France, you have recognized.
Possibly the delegation of the People's Republic of China sympathizes with the brutal regime in Kampuchea. After all, they have had similar origins. Both have won a civil war against their more temperate combatants. Both have instituted a communist reign of terror and tortured and killed millions of innocent civilians. Possibly this coincidence would serve to draw the attention of the House to China's support and the motives therefore. What is the standpoint of the delegation of the People's Republic of China on this?
Could the delegation of France please rephrase
Good to
the question.
Please replace this question. Thanks.
The regime that currently resides in Peking is of a similar nature to the regime in Kampuchea. Both are communist dictatorships that have gained power not through democratic election but through war. And both have indiscriminately and unscrupulously abused human rights. What is your position on that fact?
The delegation of China does see that there are multiple connections between the People's Republic of Kampuchea and the People's Republic of China, and we do see our goal as making an agrarian society, and as such, certain actions need to be made.
Thank you very much for this insight.
Thank you. As the delegate has not opened himself up to more points of information, we suggest that the speaker use the floor back to the chair. Thank you. So, is any delegate wishing to speak against this subclause as a whole? Raise your placard sign now. Okay, so we will now be moving into voting procedures on this second subclause. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this second subclause, raise your placard sign now. Jan Robin. Anyone wishing to vote against, raise your placard sign now. As they have with 9 votes, 9 votes in favor, 2 against. This subclause passes. Clapping is in order. Woo! Okay. So we will now commence debate on the third subclause of this third clause as a whole. Thus, the chair will set 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against on this third subclause. Does any delegate wish to speak in favor of this third subclause? Raise your placard sign now. France, you have been recognized.
Honorable assembled, the grave situation of almost 2 million refugees that have fled from Kampuchea since the assumption of power of the Khmer Rouge regime. The delegation of France is determined to improve the situation of these people and to be able to repatriate them to their place of birth and their nation. We hope that we can cooperate with all other delegations in this issue and look forward to your support. Thank you very much. We're open to points of information.
Are there any such in the House? UK, you have been recognized.
The delegation of the UK would like to ask the delegation of France what repatriation means.
The repatriation would, in this context, mean locating Kampuchean refugees and bringing them back to their country.
Thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegate of France yields the floor back to the chair.
We do so.
Thank you, delegate. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this third subclause? Soviet Union, you have been recognized.
Dear delegate, we as a communist nation think that all people are equal and that they should be treated right. These refugees and displaced persons did not deserve what happened to them, so they should come back and be treated the right way. They should have taken care of them. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes.
Japan, followed by France.
What would the delegate of the Soviet Union think would be the best way to treat those people?
So, first of all, I would let them get into a relationship with different people who still live in Kampuchea, and get them into the social world. Get them a job, a safe place, money, a payment. Sorry?
Nothing.
Please commence with your speech.
A payment that is regular to have them a stable life where they can take care of their family who maybe had to flee with them.
What's your reply?
Granted.
How does the delegate of the Soviet Union think that's going to be possible during the situation that's in Cambodia right now?
It's possible with communism. Because communism treats all people the same. Nobody is different, everybody is equal, there is no race separation or anything that kind.
Granted.
Doesn't the delegate of the Soviet Union think that's also possible in a democracy where everybody can still be an individual but respected by their fellow peers in society?
As the delegate of Japan just mentioned, it's also possible in the democracy. But not everybody is treated equal. If they get more payment, they have a better lifestyle. They get less payment, they have a worse lifestyle. And in a communist nation, everybody is equal. We are one equal. Everybody is on one staircase.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
France?
Can the delegation of the French Republic assume a cooperation with the Soviet Union in this important matter and rely on their support of the poor Vietnamese, poor Kampuchean refugees in this issue?
In that case, it's about the people, not the countries, so yes.
Thank you very much.
I yield the floor back to the chairs.
Okay. So, is there any other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this third subclause as a whole? Raise your placard sign now. Sweden, you have been recognized.
Dear delegates, Sweden would like to mention that no one of these citizens deserve such a bad situation and such a bad treating by their government. Just imagine once, if you're in this situation, you don't want to be treated like that. I think everyone should work together and talk with each other to solve this problem and to help these people who are not deserving such a bad situation.
Thank you, delegate. We would remind the delegate of Sweden to not use personal pronouns. And is the delegate open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Soviet Union, you have been recognized.
The delegate of the Soviet Union totally agrees with the delegate of Sweden and supports him.
Thank you. Any more points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegation of Sweden yields the floor back to the chair.
We do.
Thank you, delegate. Time allocated for time in favor of this third subclause has elapsed. We are now moving into time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this third subclause as a whole? Okay, so we'll now be moving directly into voting procedures on this third subclause as a whole. Admins, please suspend the note passing and secure the door. Thanks. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this third subclause, raise your placard sign now. Anyone wishing to vote against? With 10 votes in favor and 1 against, this third subclause passes. Clapping is in order. We'd once more like to encourage you guys to write more amendments if you want, so we have more to talk about. Okay, so we are now in debate on the fourth subclause of this third clause as a whole. The time is the chair is setting 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against on this fourth subclause. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, raise the placard sign now. France, you have been recognized.
Just do that.
Yeah, I think there's a certain point of motion. Like for someone to I think there's a certain point of motion for someone to explain the vote.
Yes.
Like if they can understand, but I don't think you can.
I think that goes under the motion of parliamentary inquiry, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I haven't had that before.
Yeah, it's like a very special case.
So. If a delegate wants something explained, they can just send a note and then ask another delegate to take the floor.
From what I know, you can say no motion to explain voted into the country you wish to explain.
Yeah, but like that's only when someone like you don't understand why a certain country has voted that way, and then he has to explain himself.
Yeah.
But like there can be like there's no motion point for a delegate to come up and speak. So yes, you just have to like if you don't understand why France voted in a certain way, then you can have a certain point. Okay, so France, you can now come.
Honorable chairs and delegates. The delegation of the French Republic feels that certainly this is also another core component of the plan for a transition of power to democratic elements in democratic Kampuchea. We feel that military arrangements need to be taken out of the hands of government-controlled Khmer Rouge battalions and units, and that that instead the executive power be vested in the peacekeeping troops and the peacekeeping troops alone. This would mean that the interim authority of the United Nations in Kampuchea has a decision based on military superiority and prowess, and also relating to these fields. We feel that currently, in the interest of interior stability and human rights for the Kampuchean population, it is of international interest that military affairs be managed by a neutral United Nations authority and not by potential Kampuchean units that may adhere to the philosophy of the Khmer Rouge and continue the war. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
We are, if there be such.
Are there any such in the House? China, you have recognized?
The fact that this clause will lead to a kind of war between...
May the House please come to order?
Okay.
And can the delegate of China please rephrase this question?
Just speak up.
Okay.
Speak up.
Is the delegation of the Republic of France aware of the fact that this clause might lead to an inter-war between the United Nations peacekeeping organization and the Kampuchean forces?
The delegate of France is aware of the fact that the possibility remains that Khmer Rouge units will conduct a warfare, yet the delegate of France can assure the delegate of the People's Republic of China that war shall not be joined by the United Nations forces due to their strict status of neutrality. The United Nations peacekeeping forces are purely in Kampuchea to protect the implementation of the interim authority and stabilize the situation to the benefit of the Kampuchean people.
Thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Japan, you have recognized.
Didn't the delegate of France mention this point before in an upper clause? Can we see the upper clauses again, please?
So it starts with condemns.
No,
No, I think the one underneath that.
the
Peacekeeping mission.
This is a distinction in legal phraseology. The United Nations peacekeeping mission exists under the direct supervision of the Secretary General. However, clause 3F, I think we are currently 3D. Excuse me. Clause 3D mandates that further military units be placed under the supervision of and under the authority of the interim government of Kampuchea. Therefore, we would have a complete control of the military assets located in Kampuchea by either the Secretary General through the peacekeeping forces or the interim authority over regular units of the Kampuchean army.
Thank you. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that the Speaker yields the floor back to the Chair.
We yield the floor.
So, is there any other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this fourth subclause? Raise your placards high now. Do I have a motion to move into time against? Second? Okay.
Second.
Thanks, guys. So we are now in time against. Is there anyone wishing to speak against this fourth subclause as a whole? Raise your placards high now. That will be in order, guys. So we will now directly be moving into voting procedures on this fourth subclause as a whole. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this fourth subclause, raise your placards high now. Da hat sich auch noch gemeldet. Okay, raise them again and high. Okay, anyone wishing to vote against, raise placard sign now. United States, is that a... Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so with 8 votes in favor and 3 against, this fourth subclause passes as a whole. Clapping is in order. And the chair of the United Nations Historical Security Council would kindly ask the admin to bring me another cup of coffee. Polish People's Republic, yeah? Yeah, okay, we can open what? Can you open one window, David? Or someone else?
Stay close, please.
Okay, we'll be moving into voting procedures. On this personal privilege, anyone wishing that the windows stay closed, raise your placard sign now. 5. No, that's not in order. Okay, 5. So anyone wishing that the will be opened? Okay. Vetoes will not be in order in this point of personal privilege, so the windows will be opened. In 10 minutes, we can have another vote if the windows shall remain open or shall be closed again. No, we voted about 1. Okay, only 1. Yeah, that's in order. Yeah, it's. Das ist Frau Rogge, ne? Das ist Frau Rogge, ne? Frau Rogge sagt das immer. Ja. Okay, Kaffeepause. Coffee break. wait a minute. We will now commence with a debate on this 5th subclause. The chair is setting 3 minutes in favor and 3 minutes against. Yes, Soviet Union.
From chairs, don't let me talk. So, point of information. PS, Russia cares about human rights. Aha.
Okay, so who actually cares? Okay, I guess we will now start with debate on this 5th subclause. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this 5th subclause, maybe anyone else than France would be great. Raise the placard sign now. Sweden followed by Japan. Bring einfach mal 12 Stück mit oder so. Bring einfach so eine Zuckerbox mit. Okay, may the House please come to order. Sweden is
dear delegates, dear chair. Sweden is convinced that this is quite obvious that everyone should work together to help the situation again here, especially the infrastructure. And Sweden is convinced that a country in this situation needs support in this to build up the infrastructure and everything else as well.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that the Speaker yields the floor back to the Chair.
Yeah.
So after Japan has finished eating, she can the delegate of Japan can commence with her speech. Soviet Union?
I've got a question.
What are you eating?
As punishment after Japan's speech, the delegate of Australia will have to tell a joke. But non-sexist, I mean. Non-sexist, okay? Yeah.
Soviet Union has a question to the clause, to the subclause. When the delegate of France says rebuilding vital Campuchian infrastructure, does he mean the democratic infrastructure or just like...
No, this is actual roads and bridges and stuff.
You know, to support...
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
Was ist
You can take the chair.
No, that's too Okay. The delegate of Japan thinks that is very important to also reach out to all the rural areas of the country where people are suffering even more than we can imagine. And that's just a great way to help every single person in the country.
Thank you, Japan. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House?
No.
Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegate of Japan use the floor back to the chair. Does the delegate of Japan wish to that the microphone would be a bit lowered, so she doesn't have to like go no? Okay, I lowered it a bit. Thanks, no problem. So, does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this 5th subclause? Raise the placard sign now. Do I have a second to move? Do I have a motion to move into previous question? Okay, so we are now in time against. Anyone wishing to speak against this 5th subclause as a whole? Raise the placard sign now. Okay, so we will now be moving into voting procedures. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this 5th subclause as a whole, raise the placard sign now. Anyone wishing to vote against, raise the placard sign now. Okay, so with 10 votes in favor and 1 against, this 5th subclause passes. Clapping is in order. Woo! Sweden? Oh, yeah. I completely forgot.
but that's really embarrassing in front of
No.
the cameras. Yeah.
Veto.
He ate the best
You
part
have
of
no
the
veto
donut.
at your Australia.
What? Sorry, I didn't get you.
You do not have a veto right.
Yeah, I know.
You should
So,
be,
he's going to dance?
No,
So-
the
Sure, it was the
French
best
would like to
fucking
have
one.
a friendly
It was
amendment.
important, so
That dance should be partaken in front of the GA third.
Yeah, that would be great.
And to live music.
We should
Would
wait.
the delegate,
Yes.
would the delegate of
Yes.
Japan, would the delegate of Japan consider that a friendly amendment?
Wait.
Yes.
Yes,
you
Mr.
would.
Chair.
No.
Vote in favor.
Wait, word of advice to the chair. If enough people donate money, we can dance.
Who can dance?
We. Like me, I will do it.
Oh, if
If
people
they donate
would pay
money,
us.
yeah.
We'll dance live on the street.
Yeah, we'll dance live on the street.
Das kann man ganz verstehen.
Oh God.
Okay. Also wir haben eigentlich mal alles angehört, was rumgeschickt wird. Also-
Chair.
Okay.
I think I've got a joke too.
Okay, the joke will be in
It
order.
would be funnier if he would make a joke out of it.
May the house please come to order and let Australia tell his joke?
No. You can say no comment.
Ja, Matt.
Okay, how do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it.
Could the delegate of Australia please rephrase the joke? I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Wow. Okay. Hello. How do you get holy water? You boil the hell out of it.
Okay, that was actually good. Better than the last one. Okay, so Mrs. Knot just told us we have some new rules. The admins are no longer allowed to leave the room, so you can no longer order them to get you cookies or something to drink. And note passing between the GAs is no longer in order, as staff. Yeah.
It's under proceedings of the Security Council that the Security Council may change its proceedings at any time as it sees fit. Therefore, the delegation of France would like to change the parliamentary proceedings in order to allow the admin staff to leave the room in order to grab coffee for all of us.
Yeah. In favor.
My coffee's empty almost. I need coffee.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
The motion is overruled by the chair and will not be entertained.
But it's in the UN Charter.
Veto.
We don't care. We don't want the admins to get abused. Okay.
Violation of the UN
If you
Charter.
ask really nicely, okay.
Okay.
Dear Chair, could the...
No.
May I tell another joke?
Alright, when I say motion, wir machen jetzt alle
If you eat, if you,
No, it's
dann
funny.
werfen die alle auf die Chairs. Doch.
Okay, you can tell another joke, but then we will commence with debate. Okay.
Okay. What is Beethoven's favorite fruit? Banana.
Thank you.
Banana.
Admin, we have some good or bad news, depends. Look at me. You are no longer allowed to carry out...
Warte, lauf mal schnell raus und hol mir noch einen. Hol mir eben noch einen. Kaffee, hol mir noch einen.
That's not in order.
Da ist schon Zucker drin.
Admin.
3 Stück.
Mir bitte auch.
Jawohl, lauf!
Lauf.
Admin, close the door. No! I don't have this council under control. Okay. After the admin has
Here's to freedom.
After the admin has brought in the coffee, you will no longer be permitted to leave the room, okay?
Weil wir hassen auch nicht mehr die anderen.
So,
Weil die das gerade entschieden haben, damit nicht so viel Unruhe ist, glaube ich. Ja, wir raus, aber der Admin darf nicht mehr.
okay, admin, can you please close the door? You're no longer permitted to leave the room.
Point of personal
Dein
privilege.
Kragen ist übrigens...
Yes?
I have to go to the toilet.
Really sure?
Yeah.
Okay. But do not smoke a cigarette, okay?
I don't smoke. Hey.
Yeah.
What? Ich muss noch nicht holen. Soviet Union. Achso, na egal.
Okay, we will now commence debate on the 6th subclause of this third clause as a whole. The chair will set 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against this 5th subclause, Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this fifth subclause, raise the placards high now. We'd like to encourage the delegates other than Sweden, Japan, and France to speak up, and yeah, because we need a bit of variety. No milk. You can have my coffee, Sweden. It's fine. Nah, it's fine. Okay, seeing as there's no other delegate, may the House please come to order. Seeing as there's no other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this fifth subclause, France will now entertain a speech. Pas de problème. Yeah.
Honorably assembled.
We'll talk about it, okay, in a minute.
Distinguished chairs, the delegate of the French Republic feels that no longer can the Khmer Rouge regime be trusted to represent the interests of the Kampuchean people abroad. This regime that has...
That was fast. Nice going to the toilet, man. Okay, you can now
this regime under which so many innocent people have suffered and that has received such international outrage at its actions can, as France feels, no longer adequately represent Kampuchea on the international stage. We therefore feel that a neutral United Nations government panel or intergovernmental panel for Kampuchea is better suited to represent the interests of Kampuchea and its citizens as a sovereign nation on the international stage. This intergovernmental panel would be free of the stereotypes and sanctions that the Khmer Rouge regime has received by the international community. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we would love to answer them.
Are there any points of information in the House? Are there any points of information in the House? Okay, seeing as there are none, we suggest that the speaker yields the floor back to the chair.
Oui, yes.
Bug it. Okay, so does anyone else wish to entertain a speech in favor of this sixth subclause as a whole, other than Sweden or Japan, maybe? Otherwise, we will now be entertaining a speech by the delegation of Australia in favor of this sixth subclause. Sorry, I just have to pick you guys up if you don't want to speak.
Yeah, the delegation of Australia totally agrees with that clause because it's, for us it's important that the problems of the country are represented in global councils and something like that.
Thank you. Are you open to any points of information?
No.
Okay, so we should suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. I yield it. You have to say, I yield it. I yield it. Okay. That will be in order. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this sixth subclause? Oh, USA. You haven't recognized. USA. USA. America, baby. Admin, where did you go? There will be no more note passing between the councils, okay? Between the committees. Throw that into the trash. Thank you.
The delegation of the USA speaks in favor of this clause as it is our main goal to preserve the rights of every human being around the world, no matter the conflict. And as we are the symbol of democracy, we we really support this clause.
Great speech, thanks, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
One.
Is there 1 point information in the House? See, Soviet Union you have recognized.
The delegate of the Soviet Union
would like to ask the delegate of the USA if there still be the communism ruling in Kampuchea.
Absolutely.
The delegation of the USA thinks that communism is not the way to happiness. And
People is.
You have to request for follow-up if you want to answer.
Sorry.
And we don't support communism, so this wouldn't be in our interest.
Request for follow-up?
Granted.
The Soviet Union thinks that communism is a good idea. We have it in our country. In Vietnam there's communism, and in Kampuchea there's communism right now as well. The people who live there said they want communism, and if we fight against that, there will be a civil war. Do we want to have a war again? And you can't tell me about human rights. We just remember that you kill people in Vietnam, innocent people, just to
The delegation of the USA...
We'd like the delegation of Soviet Union to stand up when the delegation of USA is answering a question. Thanks.
The delegation of the USA finds it kind of ridiculous to say that the Cambodian people like communism, as many of the Cambodian people were killed by the government, and try...
Not granted. See, the delegation of USA has only opened himself up to 1 point information, thus there will be no more points of information entertained. We suggest that the speaker yields the floor back to the chair.
I yield it.
Thanks.
Woo!
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this sixth subclause as a whole? Where's the placard sign now? Do I have a motion to move into previous question? Okay, so we are now in time against this sixth subclause as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak against this sixth subclause? Where's the placard sign now? This motion will be overruled by the chair and will thus not be entertained. We'd like a country of the Eastern Bloc under the influence of the Soviet Union to speak against this sixth subclause. Soviet Union followed by the Polish People's Republic.
This is against the will of the people who live in Kampuchea. They decided to have communism. They want it, and we support that. We, as a Soviet Union, want to take care of that problem. It's not clear if after that there's still communism in that country. Who will guarantee these people that there will still be that regime? Of course, the bad people, what's its name again? No, Khmer Rouge is bad. But that doesn't mean that we have to get rid of communism, because it's not all bad. Everyone is equal, and it's treated that way. It's good.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes. Any and all.
Okay, Sweden, followed by Japan, followed by France, followed by China.
Doesn't the delegate of the Soviet Union...
May the House please come to order?
...agree that by doing this, the thing that a government represents or organization represents the opinion of these people or the opinion of the citizens in their country doesn't change the fact that they can still be communists.
Excuse me, could the delegate of Sweden please...
Could the delegate of Sweden please rephrase this question?
Doesn't the delegate of the Soviet Union agree that this subclause doesn't change the fact that there could be still communism or democracy afterwards by doing that?
That would be a point we would write an amendment to, because this says that it's on the international level, but we want to ensure that after that there's still communism in that country.
Right to reply.
Granted.
But doesn't this subclause just say that the opinion of the citizens and their wills and their hope are presented internationally?
Yes.
So everyone, not just the country, knows what their wills are. So more than like the Western countries also know what they want and can support the citizens with like help
The problem the delegate of the Soviet Union sees in that is that the Western countries all have a democracy and that they will tell the people what's best for them, even though the people themselves know what's best for them. That's the problem, and that's how they will interfere and get rid of the communism as they want since 20 years, almost 20 years.
Right, replying to...
Not granted, as there are many other points of information. Japan, you're up next, followed by Soviet Union, China, and the USA. France, sorry.
Doesn't the delegate of the Soviet Union think that after this horrible incident that happened, the
Which horrible? Sorry.
The genocide.
Okay. No, there are many things that happened.
Yeah, sure. That the people should be able to vote again for the political for their political structure.
If other countries at the western side of the world will interfere and try to change their mind, yes, of course, why not?
Right to reply?
Granted.
So the delegate of the Soviet Union would allow the people to vote again and be and accept the outcome, even if it's not communism.
Want
No.
to rephrase the question?
No, I won't answer that.
Okay.
Okay, that way we know. France up next, yeah.
Surely the delegate of the Soviet Union is aware of the fact that the current government that rules Kampuchea was not elected by the will of the people.
Yes, I am. I know that. Yeah, we know that.
Therefore, does the delegate of the Soviet Union not concur that the will of the people cannot be identified, and after years of being enslaved by its government, it is hardly going to lean towards an enlightened communist government?
As we already mentioned, we're not for the regime that just right now they're in Kampuchea, but we think that the will of the people is communism. We saw it in Vietnam, we saw it in our country, the Soviet Union. There are people who think communism is good, and we support that.
Request for a follow-up?
Granted.
Nevertheless, would the delegate of the Soviet Union concur that while strictly speaking undemocratic, still the government that or the United Nations representation of Kampuchea would serve to better represent Kampuchea on the international stage than a government elected by the people, also considering the fact that currently the situation is not stable enough to hold an adequate election?
I'm aware of that fact, and I think the point of this is to get the greatest good for the most people. And if it's a democracy, we can't change it, but yeah, I won't.
Thank you very much.
Once again, we'd like to remind the delegation of the Soviet Union to refrain from using personal pronouns. You have to speak of yourself in third person. Thanks. Followed by China, United States, and GDR.
I won't answer any questions anymore.
Okay, so
how many questions are there?
China, followed by USA, followed by GDR, followed by Australia. You have opened yourself up to any points of information. If you can specify if you want. If you can say, I want to entertain 2 points of information the next time around, okay?
I'll answer all.
You can answer all.
We as a delegation of China fully support the delegation of the Soviet Union.
Thank you.
The delegation of the USA thinks that it's kind of embarrassing to say that the will of the people is represented as the government, as stated by the French delegation, was corrupt and elected, not elected, but
implemented by force.
Yeah, implemented by force. And it was not the will of the people.
I think it's hilarious what the United States of America states after what...
We'd like the delegation of the United States to stand up when his question is being answered.
I think it's hilarious what the United States of America states after what they have done the past years. Our people, the people of Vietnam and the people of Kampuchea fight for their rights. There's a civil war going on there, and I know if we know and we know that if we will interfere and fight back, there will be more war. And this is what we want to prevent. We don't want to have war anymore. Too many people already died, and that's the main clause. We want to prevent more death of innocent people. And you as a delegation of the United States can't state against that. It's the highest priority to keep the people safe in this country.
The delegation of the USA thinks
You have to request a follow-up if you want to answer. Granted.
The delegation of the USA thinks that it's our highest aim to ensure that the people in Cambodia are safe.
So we agree.
But
Yes?
But the past isn't important in this argument, as we are trying to affect the future and not the past.
Excuse me, but you are arguing about how bad we are and how many people we killed, and now you say the past isn't important? That doesn't make sense That doesn't make any sense.
The delegation of the USA thinks that
We'd like to hear request. Granted.
The delegation of the USA thinks that our argument was that Cambodia killed many thousands of people, or many.
Not Cambodia killed them. The people. Cambodia.
Killed thousands of innocent citizens, and under the regime of a communist party, and that are just the facts.
If I can just mention, there were also already democracies where people were killed. So you can't just make it like general. Just because one communist party kills people, it's not that every communist party kills people. You can't make that general.
As this debate seems to go to nowhere, another request for follow-up will not be entertained. Once again, we'd like to remind the delegation of the Soviet Union to speak of herself in third person. He said I once. Okay, the next point of information will be entertained by GDR, followed by Australia, followed by the UK.
As much as the delegation of the GDR believes that socialism is a great ideology, we do think that if there's no people anymore, like there's no more people because they're all dead, there's not really a will of the people, because basically they've all been eliminated, and yeah.
I think the problem in this council is that everybody thinks that we as a Soviet Union support what the Khmer Rouge is just doing and is killing people. We don't support that. We want to be the greatest good for the people, but we just say that representing on an international level where the democracy is supported by most of the countries, this will not be good for the communism. And you, as the GDR, should support that. You should support our opinion.
Yeah, also.
Otherwise, we'll declare war to the United States of America. That was a joke. We won't declare war.
Request for follow-up.
Granted.
What happens if the GDR decides not to support socialism anymore?
Oh, you know, you're under our control. No money anymore, no food.
Request for follow-up.
Granted.
We have no money.
And no food.
You'll go in debt. We have
We have ways, we have means.
we have things we can do to you that all, I think, that will make you support our opinion.
Okay, the next point of information will be entertained by Australia, followed by the UK, followed by France. After that, we won't entertain any more points of information, as the delegation of the Soviet Union has stood here for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Isn't the delegate of the Soviet Union aware of Stalin's phrase, it's not about the voter, but about the ones who counts the vote? So doesn't she believe that the Khmer Rouge manipulate the vote?
As I already mentioned like 5 times, we do not support the Khmer Rouge. We want to get rid of it. But the problem is, we have to, after we get rid of it, there will be no regime in this country. So we should make a public vote where everyone, every person, every man and woman can vote. That is our point. We don't support the Khmer Rouge. Nobody understands that. We want to get rid of that. Yes.
Granted.
I did not say that you're supporting the Khmer
But
Rouge.
you said that the Khmer Rouge will interfere in that vote. And I think we, as a delegation of Soviet Union, think that will happen, yes.
Yeah, but request a follow-up.
Granted.
I only wanted to mention the delegation of Australia only wanted to mention that there is a risk of the Khmer Rouge to manipulate the vote, not that you like that they manipulate it.
We, as a delegation of the Soviet Union, think the biggest problem we have right now in Cambodia is the Khmer Rouge. We should get first rid of that problem after we talk about further attempts we want to do. This is my, can I say that? This is my opinion. This is our opinion, and we think we should handle that first. The problem of the Khmer Rouge, that's our biggest problem. If we get rid of them, we can solve other problems.
UK up next.
We would like to ask the delegation of the Soviet Union what reasons, other than that their country is communist, what reasons would the people of Kampuchea have to be communist? And we would like to add that if the GDR decides to not support the Soviet Union, we will give them money.
If you give them money, we could declare war to the United Kingdom. Bad things will happen to your people then. So communism, okay, so as the United Kingdom asked why they should support the communism is great. Everyone is equal, everyone has a house, they have a job, they are paid equal. There's no up and down, there's no higher society. Could you please let me talk, France?
May the House please come to order.
Everybody is great, there's no high society, there's no low society, there's no starvation. We, as one crowd, can work together to make this country great again. Make Kampuchea great again. You're welcome.
Okay, so the last point of information will be entertained by the delegation of France.
The delegate of the Soviet Union has repeatedly stated that the current leadership of the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics does not support in any way the Khmer Rouge, or has done so in the past.
I do. Oh, we do!
Then what is
We'd
the
like
delegates...
the delegation of France to request a follow-up if he's answering.
Well, request a follow-up?
Granted. Sorry.
Then what is the delegate's comment on the fact that Soviet-produced weapons have been repeatedly used and en masse by the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, and the alleged presence of Soviet military instructors has been noted in intelligence reports.
We as a Soviet Union do not know about any of the accusations you are just accusing us of. And if you want to prove that the Soviet Union gave the Khmer Rouge weapons, we want evidence. Then we can talk about that.
Request for follow-up?
No further information.
One morphological advantage.
The delegation of the French Republic would be glad to share with the Security Council reports by the Service Secret of the Interior Ministry. However, due to secrecy constraints, we are not able to present them to the Security Council. But rest assured, there are detailed documents, information, and insider reports of Soviet military involvement.
We think, as a delegation of the Soviet Union,
do not deny it. Shame!
We'd like the delegation of France to sit down. And
I want to say something to the delegation of France. These accusations of France are hilarious. Even though we all know that France wasn't the best country the last years, Second World War, I don't want to know what you all did, and we don't have evidence of everything. If France continues with these accusations, we will declare war to you, and then you can't have proof anymore because it's going to be bombed away. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, so now that the... Yeah. Yes. We'd like the House to come to order. Now that the Soviet Union has entertained her speech, we will kindly ask the delegation from the Polish People's Republic to hold a speech against this sixth subclause as a whole. Now, thank you.
as the delegation of the Polish People's Republic, we are supporting the Soviet Union, and with China we are not alone. Because the communism is the only way to handle everyone equal. And the communism, I don't know where's the problem, but the communism is not as much different from the democracy than you think. So we are supporting the communism in the Cambodian Republic. Thank you.
We would like to remind you to not use any personal pronouns, and is the delegate open to any points of information?
Thank you.
Are you open to any points of information? Okay, Soviet Union have been recognized.
We, as a Soviet Union, totally understand you and support you.
Great. Are there any more points of information in the house? Japan, you have been recognized.
I'm sorry. Doesn't the delegate of the Polish People Republic think that communism has also its bad sides?
I think it has its bad sides, but to justice the human rights, we have to make a communism republic state, however, to justice the human rights, but we have to change the way the communism is has become reality. So we have to make in Cambodian some I don't know. We have to let the people decide what they want to have for a republic, I think.
That won't be granted. Soviet Union is up next.
Choose communism.
Comrade delegate, the other delegates. I think the question we have to first solve is the Khmer Rouge. We have to get rid of that, and then we can talk about that. We are talking about the heißen Brei, hot brei. We're talking about the hot pie. This doesn't make sense. We have to solve the big problem first, the Khmer Rouge, and then we can talk further on. Because we're just talking about the same topic. We've got our countries, China, Polish republics, and I mean German GDR is not like completely in, and the Soviet Union, who's pro-communism, but then we've got the much more countries who are against it. And this is, we should first think about the people who live there, who are suffering, who are dying, just because there's a regime that's against free will. And we don't support that.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Are there any more points of information on the floor? Seeing as now, we suggest that the speaker yields the floor back to the chair.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing that the time allocated for time against the 6 subclause as a whole has elapsed, we will now be directly moving into voting procedures after Sweden has returned from his travel from the to the bathroom. So we'll wait. So we are planning to get through the 7th subclause, and then we'll do a little break, and then we commence with the more amendments we have handed in, and then at 1 o'clock we'll have lunch break. 1 o'clock already? Yeah. Yeah, we don't know. Okay. Yeah, I think yesterday was fine, but like it wasn't that much. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Potato. Okay, may the House please come to order? May the House please come to order? No personal chatting, please. We will now be directly moving into voting procedures on the 6th subclause as a whole. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this 6th subclause, raise the placket sign now. Anyone wishing to vote against, raise the placket sign now. Okay, so the Soviet Union has used her veto right. We'd like the Soviet Union to explain, to justify the use of the veto right. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. But make it fast, guys. There will be punishment for France, I promise.
Western countries are capitalism, and they just seek after that. We don't support that. We want to have a better clause that guarantees us that after the international interference, there will still be the communism and that the people have a free will and can decide on their own which regime will be there. Not that any Western countries go there and interfere and then they will have a democracy after the people fought for their rights. And they did. No further information.
Okay, that will be in order. So, as the Soviet Union has used her veto right, the Sixth Amendment won't pass. Clapping is not in order. So we will now be moving into debate on clause F, which is now the sixth sub-clause. The chair is setting 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against this clause as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this sixth sub-clause, raise packet sign now. Jidao, you have been recognized.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The delegation of the GDR believes that installing new elections, if there's still people left, would be a good proposal because we want the majority of the citizens to pursue their own interests and have an ideology that actually appeals to them rather than opposes their views. And we believe this is very important for the morality of the country and the strength, because we don't want this conflict to endure. So, yeah.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the Speaker yields the floor back to the Chair.
I yield.
Is there anyone else wishing to entertain a speech in favor of this sixth sub-clause? USA, you have been recognized.
The delegation of the USA speaks in favor of this sub-clause, as it's our will to support democratic elections all around the world, and we fully support that argument.
Great. Are you open to any points of information, Delegate?
One.
Is that okay? Federal Republic of Germany, you have been recognized.
The delegation of the Federal Republic of Germany would like to agree with the USA on this point and assure their support for the USA.
Thank you, Delegate. Seeing as... Yeah.
If you mention a point of interest, point of information, is that allowed to start counting? Because isn't it normally a question? Like saying your own opinion and agreeing or something like that.
So we'd like the Federal Republic of Germany to rephrase her point of information as a question. Not only supported the position of the USA.
Sorry?
You have, when you do a point of information, you have to ask a question, like your phrase has to be phrased as a question. Just ask something.
The USA wish for other countries to support this point.
Could the delegate of the Federal Republic of Germany please rephrase the question?
Okay, I guess it's fine. I think the Federal Republic of Germany can just sit down, and we suggest that the delegation of the USA yields the floor back to the chair.
I yielded.
Great. Okay, so is anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the sixth sub-clause? So you have Japan, you have been recognized.
The delegation of Japan thinks that it's very important that the people of Kampuchea are allowed to have a free and a democratic voting system, and that all the countries who participate in ensuring that are happy or accept the outcome that happened, either if it be communism or democracy.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Soviet Union, is that a point of information?
Yes.
Okay.
The Soviet Union wants to ask the delegate of Japan if there will be any interference of the Western world.
The delegate of Japan cannot ensure what will happen, but the delegate of Japan is very sure that UN-approved employees will make sure that there is no interference from the western or eastern side of the world.
Okay, so follow up.
Granted.
The delegation of the Soviet Union wants to ask how you want to ensure that the Khmer Rouge will not interfere in that problem, because still they have the regime and they will just give it up.
The delegate of Japan cannot be completely sure about that, but the UN has proven their neutrality in several other cases, and that's why the delegate of Japan thinks that it will succeed once again.
Request follow-up?
Not granted. Is there any other point of information? Have you opened to this? Okay. Sweden, you have to recognize.
So has the delegate of Sweden understand that right, that Japan speaks in favor of creating a government which is either democratic or communists, and that Japan is in favor of deciding that by asking the people and the people's opinion.
Yes, the delegate of Sweden understood that right, that the people should vote on what political system they prefer.
Thank you.
UK followed by the GDR.
Does the delegation of Japan agree that if if this clause goes through, the whole of the UN should support this, and because we are neutral, the outcomes shouldn't be affected by a certain country being communist or democrat?
Yes, that's exactly what the delegate of Japan means, and the UN is already supporting several other communist countries, and it should not be different with this one.
Okay, GDR.
The delegation of the GDR wants to clarify that democracy is not a political ideology, but it's rather a method of executing politics.
We'd like to ask the delegation of GDR to phrase this point of information as a question.
Oh, shit, how do I do that? Is the delegation of Japan aware that democracy is not a political ideology as is like communism or capitalism?
The delegation of Japan is aware of that, but in today's slang, what you can say, it's a type to do politics, and if that's the type that the people want, it should be how they get it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the delegate of Japan will entertain one more point of information. USA, you have, okay, China, you have recognized.
Is the delegation of Japan aware of the fact that communism is the democratic ownership of the means of production?
Could the delegation?
Could the delegate of China please rephrase this question?
Is the delegation of Japan aware of the fact that communism is the democratic ownership of the means of production by the people in the country?
The delegation of Japan was not aware of that. It recognizes the information from China, but the delegation of Japan still thinks that once the people decided on what they want, they should get it like it's common.
Okay, we suggest that the speaker yields the floor back to the chair.
I yield the floor.
Is there any other delegate wishing to speak in favor of the sixth subclause? Otherwise, we will be moving into time against. Seeing as there is no delegate wishing to speak in favor of this sixth subclause, we will now move into time against. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the sixth subclause as a whole? Raise your placard sign now. Okay, that will be in order. We will now. Okay, we won't wait for the United States of America. We will now directly be moving into voting procedures on the 6th. Okay, we'll do vote. Do you guys want to wait for the United States of America? Raise flag at side now. Waiting for you. Okay. Okay, that's the point. Okay, good point. The chair stands corrected. No. Okay, after we have voted on this last subclause, we'll be doing a 10-minute break, and then we'll be attending a few more amendments. Then we'll have a break, and then we'll have some funny things to talk about after lunch break. Das ist geil. Australia?
Three.
Sweden? Okay, we're doing a vote. Do you guys want to open the windows or do you want them closed? Anyone wishing that the windows will be opened? Oh, hey, raise your placards high now. How many is that? 6. Anyone wishing that the windows will stay closed, raise your placards high now. Okay, we will now retake votes. We will now retake the vote. Anyone wishing that the windows will be opened, raise your placard sign now. You can only have one vote. United States of America does not count. Raise your placard sign now. Wishing against? Okay. As a compromise, we'll be opening it vertically. Kannst du es so ankippen? So, I believe the United States of America is kind of taking long. Maybe he's smoking a cigarette. Maybe. Should we come up with a punishment for USA taking so long?
Yeah, that's good. Dancing to Cotton Eye Joe in another GA.
In our WhatsApp group, they wrote that.
To Frozen, let it go. He has to sing Let It Go.
Oh yes, that's also good.
That won't be entertained. Maybe we will just let him tell a joke. If after lunch break one of you guys comes late, they will have to sing karaoke. In GF3.
English, please.
English.
I don't understand German.
At the moment, in about 5 other councils, it's regular to dance if you do something wrong.
If you come late.
Our problem is we can't like do karaoke right here. So
he can dance out of the door, and so
yeah,
we can
we'll
see him. The cameras
I
can't.
just waited for milk.
Yeah. Okay. But as punishment, you will have to tell a joke because you've taken so long. Because we waited you to move into voting procedures. Tell a joke, USA, but a good one.
That's normal.
Yeah. Okay.
In English, please.
What?
Like, what's the borderline?
No sexist joke, no racist joke. Procedure. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Admin, woo!
Es gibt Krieg.
What's the difference between the United States of America and a yogurt?
Yogurt?
And a yogurt, yeah. Well, the yogurt, if you leave the yogurt alone for 200 years, it will develop a culture.
Okay, so now we've entertained a joke by France. That is okay, because the delegation of the United States of America can't come up with a joke which is not sexist or racist. So we will now directly be moving into voting procedures on this 6th subclause as a whole. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this 6th subclause, raise your placard sign now. Okay, with the complete house voting in favor of this subclause passes. Clapping is in order. Okay, the chair now sets 10 minutes break time, and after that we'll be discussing 3 more amendments. Then we'll head into lunch break. Mrs. Amendment.
Because I can still see my face. Is everybody in this school? Can everybody see it?
Yeah, everyone who's here.
Holy fucking shit! This is going to ruin my reputation.
It's already ruined. You don't have to reputation to uphold, okay?
This is your reputation.
Okay, guys. Please take your seats. House, please come to order. And we have a guest chair from GA3. Okay, so we've been handed in an amendment to add another subclause by the GDR. And it reads the following: reviewing the currently imprisoned Kampuchean citizens and releasing those which were wrongfully imprisoned, such as leaders of rebel groups. So this is an amendment handed in by the GDR, and we'd like to entertain a speech by the delegate.
Now that we have had enough time to fend off, let's get back to politics again. We handed in this amendment, and the reason for this is that we believe that during the genocides and the conflict between the citizens and the Kampuchean government, there have been people who are imprisoned for crimes that the government itself considered that the. Wait, I will rephrase my question.
No problem, take your time.
Sorry. We believe that there have been Kampuchean citizens that have been imprisoned for fighting against the corrupt government and not for actual crimes like rape or robbing people. So we believe that the currently imprisoned Kampuchean citizens should be reviewed, and that the people who are innocent and that have been imprisoned for reasons we don't think is for reasons that we think are atrocious, that they should be released, and that they have the right to live their lives and to have the chance to live in a better future.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes, 2.
Are there 2 points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the Speaker yields the floor back to the Chair. The Chair is now setting 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against this amendment as a whole. Does anyone wish to entertain an amendment in favor, a speech in favor of this amendment? Raise your placard sign now. The UK, followed by Japan, followed by Soviet Union.
The UK is in favor of this amendment, as we think that justice is very important, and if there are people who have fought for their own freedom and against the will of the Khmer Rouge, there should be justice for them.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any at all.
Are there any such points in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegation of the UK yields the floor back to the Chair. So next up was Japan.
The delegation of Japan thinks that thinks that this clause is very good, especially for the people who are wrongfully imprisoned, not just for Kampuchea, but also all over the world.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the Speaker yields the floor back to the Chair.
Yield the floor.
So up next was the Soviet Union.
The Soviet Union has the same opinion as Japan, GDR, and Sweden, and the UK. We fully support their ideas about freeing the imprisoned innocent Kampuchean citizens, because all people are equal and they have equal rights and are supposed to get a lawyer and the same chance to do not go into prison, because they were wrongfully put into prison just because Khmer Rouge is a strict and dictatorial regime.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yeah.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the speaker gives the floor back to the chair. Okay, so is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this amendment as a whole? Okay, that would be in order. We are now in time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment as a whole? Okay, that will be in order. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this amendment as a whole, raise your placard sign now. Okay, you can lower your placards. Anyone wishing to vote against, raise your placard sign now. Okay, so with 10 votes in favor. Okay, so there's been a motion for the delegate of China to explain his vote.
We, as the delegation of the People's Republic of China, are against this clause because we are aware of certain rebel groups which have been doing crimes against the Khmer Rouge, and we support the Khmer Rouge government because they're pursuing the goal of agrarian socialism, and as such, we would like to keep the imprisoned rebel groups imprisoned.
Thank you. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
None at all.
Okay. So, still, with 10 votes in favor and 1 against, this amendment passes. Clapping is in order. Soviet Union? You need to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
Okay, that will be in order. Can you bring me like a new water bottle? Okay, you won't entertain a speech today anymore. Thanks. Okay, so now we've been handed in a whole new amendment, a whole new clause containing an amendment. No, I won't. So now we are going to entertain an amendment containing a clause handed in by Australia, and it reads the following: decrees that in the meantime food supplies should be made available for the starving population in Kampuchea as a compensation for sanctions. So we'd like the delegation of Australia to explain the amendment.
The delegate of Australia believes that it would be helpful to support the Kampuchean people with food supplies as compensation for the economically damage of sanctions and for ending starvation there.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Japan, followed by France.
How does the delegate of Australia would deal with troops who try to hinder the people who bring foods to the people in need? How would the delegate react to that?
I think I've got a question. You mean rebels or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, I think the UN has got his ways of his military ways to stop some actions like that.
You want to reply?
Yes.
First, we'd like Japan to reply, and then you can reply. Okay. And we'd like to remind the delegation of Australia to not use personal pronouns. Thank you.
Is the delegate of Australia aware of that there are still a lot of rebel groups who would be able to fight those people who try to help in order to preserve that, that the people see the state still as the mightiest power and think that they're all left alone in the world?
The delegate of Australia believes that because of it is totally illegal and a war crime to attack such supplies and general UN troops. So there would be some measures.
I've read your reply.
That won't be granted as the delegation of France has its own point of information.
Right, to reply to the delegation of Japan, the whole presence of UN peacekeeping troops is there to ensure that food supplies are being delivered to the right area. And that is what also the chief aim of peacekeeping troops stationed in an area of crisis is, to ensure that the United Nations can properly carry out its humanitarian work.
Can I reply to that?
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't the delegate of France aware that rebels take those food supplies and continue robbing those people and murdering the people from the UN would still continue to murder people even if there would be more blue helmets coming?
The rebels would be held in check by United Nations armed forces, the peacekeeping troops. The peacekeeping troops would directly deliver the food to the civilian population in need.
Does the delegation of France know how many rebels there are?
Unfortunately, the delegation of France is not sure how many armed units remain in Khmer Rouge territory,
The delegation
and
of France
also
say
how many.
That there are. Okay.
Please refrain from interrupting the delegate. Also, the delegation of France does not know how many rebels will continue to carry arms after the United Nations have settled peacefully the dispute and the transition of authority from the government.
Does the delegate of France know that there are ways that people would take to ensure that their ideals will still be held and that they will continue to kill people in order to get their way? And is the delegate of France ready to send an unknown number of our troops there to be killed to help some people in need who might not even get the help?
The delegate of France is not sure the delegate of Japan has understood the purpose and convention of a peacekeeping mission. A peacekeeping mission is there to ensure that humanitarian aid is delivered to the civilian population. Of course our troops are at risk there, but that is why the French government has proposed a variety of other sanctions to soften up Khmer Rouge resistance and disable their fighting units, therefore making a military approach by the United Nations easier. The government of the French Republic further identifies other clauses in this resolution to be helpful to this end, and begs the delegation of Japan to reconsider the advantages a military operation would give to humanitarian aid. United Nations Blue Helmet troops will be there to escort grain convoys to the civilian population and supervise their distribution, while at the same time protecting civilians from rebels. That is all we can do, and that is all that needs to be done. Thank you.
Point of information.
Does the delegation of France have a point of information addressed to the delegation of Australia?
Yes, we do. We welcome the initiative by the delegation of the Commonwealth of Australia in this issue and support this motion as it specifies humanitarian aid, the humanitarian aid already given to the Kampuchean's civilian population under Clause 6, Article, I believe, A.
The delegation of Australia totally agrees with France.
So that's a point of Soviet Union.
Can the Soviet Union just ask, because she had a point of personal privilege, how the delegate of Japan and the delegate of France, why they talked about troops sending to Kampuchea while we're talking about the food supply?
France can answer that if you want.
The question was that the security and safeguarding of food supplies and the distribution to the civilian population, in which context the peacekeeping troops of the United Nations were mentioned.
Okay, is the delegation of Australia open to any more points of information? If there are such in the house?
I think so.
Okay,
We think so.
Are there any such in the house? Okay, seeing as there are none, we suggest that the speaker yields the floor back to the chair.
And we yield the floor back to the chair.
The chair now sets 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against on this amendment as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this amendment, raise your placard sign now. Sweden, you have been recognized.
Dear delegates, the delegate of Sweden completely supports that it is the task of the Security Council to make sure that the food goes to the right place and that the people in these places who need this food will receive this food. Also, we came together here, all the countries, to solve the problem and the issue in this country. And Sweden is convinced that this is one of the biggest problems, as well as stopping torturing and killing the people. So Sweden completely agrees with this clause and is convinced that this is one of the biggest tasks in the Security Council.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Soviet Union?
Again, the Soviet Union just wants to mention that the main problem we have is the Khmer Rouge. And we're talking about how we want to help the civilians, but shouldn't we talk as a union about how we want to get rid of Khmer Rouge? There's no point about that, how we want to fight against them, what we want to do. Has the delegate of Sweden has any idea about how he wants to participate in that?
Sweden totally agrees with your with the point of the Soviet Union, but also Sweden is convinced that our task to solve the problem of this organization, this government, which is treating the population and the citizens so badly, is not just in this one moment that is just gone. It's over a long time. We have to make sure that we eliminate this organization and this government. And in the meantime, while we are doing that, we should support the citizens which are starving. And I think this Sweden thinks this clause is definitely showing and presenting this opinion.
Granted.
But shouldn't we talk about how we should condemn this Khmer Rouge? How we should try to get them to surrender? Isn't it possible if we say we go and give them food supplies and try? Should we try to get them to surrender? If we give them food supplies, they can even get more, bigger and better, because they'll probably say it's from them, not from us.
As I mentioned already, while we're trying to eliminate what you just said, this organization, we still have to fix at the same time the problem of the citizens. So, as I mentioned already, we should everyone should try to do that at the same time, to fight against this organization and also support at the same time the citizens.
Just follow up.
Granted.
Will we also supply the people who support the Khmer Rouge with food, the civilians who support them?
Could the chair ask the delegate?
Could the delegation of Soviet Union please rephrase your question?
So, will we also bring food to the people who support the Khmer Rouge?
Well, I think it's the task of the Security Council to make sure that only the food only goes to the parts where actually the citizens and the people which are treated so badly receive the food.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay, France,
right of reply to the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
The delegation of the Soviet Union. To the first count, we have instituted through this resolution a complete removal of the Khmer Rouge government from power. Therefore, they do not act on any authority, and to the condemnation of the international community if they commit further atrocities or even realize a authority that no longer exists. That's the first degree. So we have completely removed the Khmer Rouge from power. They no longer have authority, and therefore, as a government, cease to exist. Which is our concrete plan for removing the Khmer Rouge. And after that, ensuring the supply of the civilian population and the rehabilitation of political prisoners. Okay. To the second degree, we find that the... what was the last point you mentioned?
If we also supply the people who support the Khmer Rouge with food.
Surely the delegation of the Soviet Union has noted that the entire civilian population have been abused by the Khmer Rouge, and every single civilian in democratic Kampuchea is currently working in labor camps. Therefore, it is highly unlikely, that is a fact, therefore it is highly unlikely that any civilian elements currently support the Khmer Rouge, and all civilians of democratic Kampuchea that are not members of the Khmer Rouge movement can be collectively identified as victims of a communist tyranny.
Right, to reply?
Yeah, but then you have to stand up.
The the Soviet Union just wants to mention that we see that we've got the example of Adolf Hitler, who also did bad things to people. And still, after the war, people supported him, even though he did bad things to them. How do you want to ensure that the people are against Khmer Rouge, and how do you want to identify if they support them? They won't just say, yeah, I support them, if they know they won't get food.
Nobody, the delegate of the French Republic would assume supports a regime that he or that they have been tortured and abused by. Every single population, if you so will, to draw a parallel to World War II Germany, every single civilian has been interned in a concentration camp.
Yes.
It is highly unlikely that any survivor of these camps, because there is a very high death rate in fact, that any survivor of these camps would support their guards in a free and democratic election.
I did not mention.
Therefore, we do not feel that the problematic issue addressed by the Soviet Union in fact exists, and therefore the matter brought up by the Soviet Union is obsolete, redundant, and not worth a discussion.
Right.
Thank you very much.
That will not be granted. Julia? Yes. Okay, are there any more points of information to the speaker? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegation of Sweden yields the floor back to the chair. Okay, so is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this amendment as a whole? Raise your packet sign now.
Motion to move to claim against.
Second.
Okay, that will be in order. We are now in time against. Does anybody wish to speak against this amendment as a whole?
Motion to move into voting.
Second.
Okay. That will not be in order. The motion will be overruled by the chair, and we'll want the...
Surely the chair cannot ask any member of the United Nations to speak out against common human sense and humanitarian aid.
Ich will nur Zeit stiften. Okay.
Even North Korea would support delivery of food.
Okay, so the chair won't force anyone to speak against this amendment as a whole. We will now be moving into voting procedures, but of course we have to wait for the delegation of Australia and GDR to return back from the travel to the bathroom. Yeah, Polish People's Republic.
Why is the amendment of Japan away?
Because the delegation of Japan realized how not good it was.
Whilst we are waiting for the return of the delegation of GDR, we'd like to encourage anyone to write one more amendment so I have something to talk about, and then we can vote on this resolution as a whole. And then after the lunch break, the lunch break will start in half an hour. We'll have some other things to talk about.
Point of mention on a topic. Yeah. The WHO just kicked India out of the UN, and is it
Why?
And they wrote a resolution about controlling the government by the UN. That's something what I found out just.
That is something that can only be done by the Security Council and is therefore without.
Yeah, but
we're the historic Security Council.
Yeah, we can't have anything that happens. This is all in the distant future. We can't comment on that.
The guy who talked to me said that's not possible, but we did it.
Who cares?
Why did you say yeah?
I'm not quite sure. They are talking about disability. In developing countries, and I don't know how that's possible, but
I think that's my guy who stays at one of the people who stays at my house.
I can just read out the phrase. It was sent to me via WhatsApp, I think.
Via.
Yeah, via is correct.
Via?
So
via.
I only can see urges all members of the WHO to reduce the control of the Indian government.
Yeah.
Just I don't know what's written.
Could
there.
the delegation of Australia please start over?
Sorry, what?
To read out the whole. Can you start off? Anu.
Urges all members of the WHO to reduce the control of the Indian government of the people of India, giving the UN power over the nation.
It's
nice.
India, was it? It's Leonard Brenner.
Who's that?
The guy from our school.
Yeah,
he's about this tall.
About 1.5 meters tall.
The funny thing is, he was in India the week before the fall break.
Yeah, together with us. And,
yeah.
He's great at representing his country. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Great.
So, now that the delegation of the GDR has returned from his long travel to the bathroom.
Do you want to know some gossip thing?
Yeah, sure.
The WHO just kicked India out of the UN.
So wait, are we just actually allowed to kick out someone here as well if you want to?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Yes, please.
Okay, like I already have a couple of ideas right now.
Oh, let me guess, Soviet Union is one of them.
Not possible because of veto.
We could kick out a stupid, an unconsequential country like
France.
we have a veto as well. We still have a veto. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
If we get
like an irrelevant country. What's an irrelevant?
I'm irrelevant, please.
UK.
You haven't said anything today from Germany.
The Soviet Union is
May the House please come to order.
If she
Union may
gets
speak
kicked
up.
out of the UN, she'll declare war to every country.
Why do you always declare war?
Because I don't
It
want to
doesn't
get
make
kicked
any
out.
You have a veto on everything. You can veto every
I'll
decision.
just vote
I'll
this one.
declare war on anyone. Just
Kick and we will.
Except China and the Polish People's Republic because they're really cool. And
FRG won't be kicked out of the so-called Security Council.
What?
Sorry, what?
You won't be kicked out, don't worry.
I won't.
You won't be kicked out.
She wants
to be kicked out.
Even though you want to, you won't be kicked out.
France, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, China,
P5 members.
China and the USA.
They're like permanent members of the Security Council.
And France is still apparently relevant. I don't know why, but hey.
Yeah. I think Germany should be a P5 member, but that will never happen.
Nowadays, yeah.
Okay, so now that we are complete again, we will now be moving into voting procedure on this whole new amendment. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this amendment, raise your placket, sign now. Oh, even China voted in favor. Nice! Okay, so with all the delegates voting in favor of this amendment passes. This amendment passes, and clapping is in order, guys. So we don't have any more amendments handed in. We are now in open debate on this resolution as a whole. You can hold a speech either in favor or against this resolution as a whole, or you have the chance to hand in an amendment.
Motion to move into closed debate.
Why?
So that we can vote and go to lunch.
Is there a second?
Second.
So you want the closed debate about the resolution as a whole?
Yes.
Okay, so we are now in the chair is setting 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against of closed debate on this resolution as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this resolution as a whole, raise your placard, sign now. We'd encourage the delegation from the Federal Republic of Germany to speak up, as she hasn't spoken up today.
As of right now, the delegation of the FRG cannot give any statement.
Because of what?
Things, but after hearing my fellow delegates speak, I would maybe consider.
Not you won't maybe consider. We want every delegate to speak at least once per day. Okay, you're not at MUNelly' to just sit around and raise your plackets every once and then. So you can just prepare a speech, and like the other ones can entertain a speech. It's just important to say something. Okay, so who wants to entertain a speech in favor of this resolution as a whole? The UK, followed by GDR, followed by Japan, followed by France. Followed by the USA.
We are in favor of this resolution as we think that first disarming the Khmer Rouge inside, what's the name again? Kampuchea, and then replacing it by a government that is chosen by the people of, I forgot again, Kampuchea is a very good idea.
Great. Is the delegate open to any points of information?
Yes.
Are there any such in the House? Okay. Oh, France.
Surely the delegate also welcomes the implementation of the UNIAC, the interim authority by the United Nations, over, in the meantime, that it takes to stabilize the country.
Could the delegate rephrase her question and use words I can understand?
Does the delegate also support the implementation of UNIAC, the interim authority on Kampuchea?
Yes.
Thank you.
Wait. Are there any more points of information? Seeing as none, we suggest that the speaker gives the floor back to the chair. GDR's up next.
The delegation of the GDR believes that this will help stabilize the situation and will further provide a nation that can finally look forward to a bright future and has the chance of finally becoming a democratic nation instead of being overruled by a select group of corrupt people with very bad intentions of abusing their own people.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Except for the Soviet Union.
Oh, this is
you can't make an exception about confirmation. Soviet Union, you have the right to.
Can the Soviet Union just mention that you're the German Democratic Republic? You're a communist state. You should support the communism and not say that you're for democratic. I mean,
communism is democracy.
I support. We support communism.
Yes.
But we don't support. How do you say it? Violence and corruption.
Granted.
Then you should have rephrased your statement and said that you're against violence, but not against communism.
Did I?
Yes, you said you're against. You said you're for democracy. Democracy, sorry. That does.
We believe we said that we're against a corrupt government.
We've got a live stream here.
We'd like the delegation of the Soviet Union to sit down. Okay, that will be granted. Soviet Union, please stand up as well.
The delegation of GDR stated earlier that democracy is not an ideology and it's more a way of how do I say it? Executing politics.
Like you have.
So that if he's for democracy doesn't mean that he's automatically against communism.
I did not say that, but I said he should say that he's.
We.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The delegate thinks that he should state that he's pro-communism because that sounds like he's going to state that he's he's contra for communism, but not pro democracy.
As a response to these remarks, we're pro common sense and anti bullshit, and we believe that the people of Kampuchea deserve a democratic republic that could be communist, but
or capitalist.
Yeah, or capitalist, and not corrupt, because there are also corrupt capitalist countries that I'm not going to mention now. That we're not going to mention now. Sure. So it's not just a communist thing, which is what the Soviet Union is trying to say.
Thank you, Delegate. We would like to remind you to not use any profane language. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Any more points of information on in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that the speaker gives the floor back to the chair. So, who was up next? Japan, followed by Sweden, followed by Soviet Union. Okay.
We have a right to speak in favor of the delegate of Japan.
Yeah, we'll just see.
The delegation of Japan thinks that this, what's the name again?
Kampuchea.
No, the resolution, exactly. Thinks that the resolution is a great way to ensure peace and safety to every citizens of Kampuchea. And that is a great thing that all of the delegates sitting here in front of me have come together about.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegation of Japan use the floor back to the chair. So, who wants to speak in favor of this resolution as a whole? Federal Republic of Germany. Great. Now you can entertain your speech. Germany.
Woo! As the delegation of the Federal Republic of Germany, we would like to support this resolution as it shows how to act humane, and it would help us all to come together and to help the Kampuchean people that are in need, and would really appreciate our support.
Thank you, Delegate. Great speech. Are you open to any points of information?
Any at all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that the Speaker yields the floor back to the Chair. So, are there any more delegates wishing to speak in favor of this resolution as a whole? Raise a placard sign now. Sweden, you have been recognized.
Dear delegates, Sweden would like to speak in favor of this resolution as well. This resolution shows good aspects to solve the problem in the country, to eliminate the government which is treating their citizens really badly. Also a comment to the Soviet Union. This problem and this issue in this country is not about if this country is going to be a democracy or what do you call democracy or communism state. And we should focus on helping the citizens and not how the government is going to look like afterwards. Sweden is convinced that both opportunities would be better than the situation now in this country, and this resolution shows good aspects to solve this problem.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yeah.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as none, we suggest that you give the floor back to the Chair. Does anyone else wish to?
Oh, I've got a point of information.
Okay, point of information.
So, as delegate of Sweden, we talked already about the real problem, the Khmer Rouge, and that's the problem. After that, we should talk about how we should take care of the citizens. And we, as the delegation of the Soviet Union, think that the only true democracy is communism. And that by that, the Western world has oligarchy, which is the rule of the rich, and we don't support that.
Sweden understands your point and agrees, but also, again, which Sweden has mentioned already, that this is not the privileged aim which should happen now.
Guess a follow-up?
Yeah, stand up, please.
We know that we agree that it's not the question right now if there should be communism or democracy, but we think the biggest problem is the Khmer Rouge, and that before we take care of the people and help them, we should first discuss how to get rid of them.
Okay. Sweden totally agrees.
Okay. Are there more points of information in the House? Federal Republic of Germany.
We would like to agree with Sweden that this is not a time to focus on the political view, but it's a time to focus on how to help the people and how to help make the Kampuchea more stable.
Sweden agrees again.
Great. Okay, seeing as there are no more points of information in the House, we suggest that the delegation of Sweden yields the floor back to the Chair.
We yield.
Is there any other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this resolution as a whole? Raise your placard sign now. Seeing that there's no other delegate wishing to speak in favor of this whole resolution, we are now in time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this resolution as a whole? Raise your placard sign now. Do I have a motion to move into voting procedures?
Said motion.
Okay. Great. So we are now moving into voting procedures on this resolution as a whole. Admin, please suspend note passing and secure the doors. The door. Okay, so anyone wishing to vote in favor of this resolution as a whole, raise your placard sign now. You can lower your placards. Any delegation wishing to vote against this resolution as a whole, vote.
How could you?
Can you just say I won't say yes, but I won't say no?
abstentions are in order, yes.
I'll extend.
Abstention. Okay, so there has been a veto by the delegation of China. We would kindly ask him to explain his veto.
We, as the delegation of China, are against the following resolution that has been handed in by the delegation of France, because we think that rebel groups should remain imprisoned because they're terrorists against the status quo government, which are going towards agrarian socialism, which means that some people might have to die, but for the greater good. Yep, but which will go against oligarchy, which has become as a result of democracy, and that has been our point.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
No.
Okay. So there's a motion to introduce a P5 caucus. That means that all members of the permanent states can. Boy, I need to read it out. Just give me a minute, okay?
Basically, it's an unmoderated caucus for the P5 members. They go outside, discuss, and then come in. There's also a motion to suspend the veto right.
Can we do that?
Yes.
Veto?
No, we can't.
No, you can't.
There's a motion to suspend.
There's a motion to suspend the right to veto.
For everyone or just for one?
For everyone.
Okay.
There's no veto right, but I can't properly remember the. I just know that there is such a motion. Maybe you want to Google it or something.
Just give them a minute. The chairs 2 minutes to discuss this issue.
We could have an unmoderated caucus for the P5 members in the meantime. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be
okay.
Great. Okay. So we will be entertaining.
America, come on.
Everyone else?
Come with us.
All P5 members? Okay, you know what to do. All other delegates, you can invite something for the gossip box if you want, okay? Ganz ernst hier, weil wieso hat China das gemacht?
light of the position of the delegation of the People's Republic of China, the powerful, the P5 nations have drawn up an alternative resolution that we would like to present to the Security Council. The main submitter of this is the Soviet Union, and we laud their efforts in achieving a decisive action despite the contrary positions of the several delegations. This resolution has been somewhat watered down, but still we feel that this is better than no resolution at all. We hope that the Security Council finds it in itself to pass this resolution without a longer debate, and we would therefore like to yield our remaining time to the Soviet Union. Thank you. We're not open for points of information.
That will be in order. Soviet Union, you up next. Due to time constraints, we won't entertain any points of information. We will just heading straight into the voting procedures after the speech.
The new resolution, the main aim is to help the people in in Kampuchea. We won't discuss the politics anymore. This is our main goal: help the people try to get rid of the Khmer Rouge, and get them to do that while we restrict their economics. This is our goal, and I hope that everybody who sits in this room supports this resolution, which we are the main submitter.
Thank you. The delegate has yielded the floor back to the chair.
Motion to move into closed voting procedure on this resolution.
Time constraints, we will be moving straight into voting procedures on this modified resolution as a whole. Everyone wishing to vote on this resolution as a whole, raise your placards high now. Seeing that every delegate has voted in favor of this. Okay. You can lower your placards. Everyone wishing to vote against, raise placards now. So, with 10 votes.
To explain vote to GDR.
Sure. Motion to shut up and go to lunch.
I'm really hungry.
The motion will be overruled by the chair and will thus not be entertained. So, with 10 votes in favor and 1 against, this resolution as a whole passes. Clapping is absolutely in order. And now we go to lunch, guys, and we got the cards. You have half an hour, okay?